I'm the CEO of CathVision. I'm also the co-founder of the company 14 years ago when I was an engineering student observing cardiac ablation procedures in the US. So heart disease is a leading cause of death. Strokes are the third leading cause of death in the US with around 150,000 strokes per year. Heart failure is a common and very costly condition with around 6 million patients in the US and around 30 billion healthcare costs annually. Atrial fibrillation, abbreviated AF or AFib, is a very common cardiac arrhythmia that precedes around 1/4 of lethal strokes. Around 1 in 4 of us above the age of 40 suffer from AF, and it's a lifestyle disease that's growing. From 2030, estimates are we'll add another 5 million patients worldwide each year. The problem is that the first-in-line treatment antiarrhythmic drugs are not really curative, and we have a need to potentially cure and alleviate more patients with cardiac arrhythmia, including AF. A therapy called ablation therapy, which serves to eliminate the focus from ablating on the inside or the outside of the actual heart, is offered to approximately 1 in 10 patients. A bigger problem is that only 50% of patients with persistent atrial fibrillation has a long-term freedom from arrhythmia after the first procedure. So in our field, there is a very clear and understood unmet medical need of improving outcomes, and we can also see we need to do much more ablation procedures going forward. We have developed a system that lives in the operating room and that replaces a very archaic old legacy group of systems called EP recording systems. We record low noise intracardiac signals and ECG to provide better data for physicians that gives them more accurate information to take the critical decisions of when to treat and when enough treatment has been delivered. We have validated pristine data, around 5x improvement over existing market players, which allows physicians to see what they could not otherwise see that drives the therapy decisions. We have as the only system real-time analytics, which helps to interpret these heart signals and tell the physician whether enough treatment has been delivered or when and where to treat more. So altogether, we empower electrophysiologists to cure cardiac arrhythmia. Just to really reiterate on the value proposition, when you're looking from the hospital and the healthcare system's point of view, we need to increase the volume of ablations and we need to improve clinical outcomes. We have software modules in our Cardialytics suite that serve to specifically increase the speed and the confidence in the volume procedures. We have something called PVI Analyzer I'll come back to. And we have clinical software that can help improve clinical outcomes called the FAST algorithm and signal complexity. So we have analyzed the procedural flow for AF ablation, and I won't bore you with all the details, but there are 4 critical steps during this procedure where we have one real-time analytical module for each step. We call them PVI Analyzer, AF Freedom, FAST, and Signal Complexity. PVI Analyzer and Signal Complexity are FDA 510(k) cleared. AF Freedom is a very ambitious software that can predict long-term outcome, and FAST is a module that can guide the physician where to treat to dramatically improve clinical outcomes. To give you a sense of why signal quality matters, on the top left you see an existing system today with a classic amount of baseline noise that is seen in all these operating rooms. On the bottom, you see our system recording signals at the exact same time, visualizing a signal that's not otherwise visible. And this is critical. For all arrhythmia, there are different signals that the physicians are looking for, and if he cannot see the true signal from catheters inside the heart, he won't treat or cure the patient. The problem today is existing systems apply what we call notch filtering, a lot of digital filtering, which distorts the actual signal. So the red signal in the middle on the right panel is a distorted signal from the original shape on the top, and our system on the bottom preserves the original morphology with minimal noise on the baseline. This was a patient at Cleveland Clinic that I observed with our system, so we've been in more than 10 US hospitals. This was around a 30-year-old female patient who had what's called an accessory pathway from the atrium to the ventricle, which causes arrhythmia, which really disturbs the daily life. We are able to visualize some signals called unipolar signals, which are otherwise drowning in noise. And in this female patient, there was the accessory pathway visible in between the atrium and in between the ventricle and the atrium. And the physician was able to see a very small signal on the ablation electrode, which meant this is where the pathway was, as opposed to any nearby electrodes that are not ablating, where applying therapy would not be successful. So this patient walked out and have not had recurrences since. More dramatically, when ablation energy is delivered today, there are huge artifacts. Cryoablation is a freeze of the tissue where the electrodes come in contact with a freezing balloon, and this causes huge artifacts. So this is how it looks like in the lab today without classic filtering. This is how it looks with classic filtering, and with our system, you can actually visualize the underlying signals that really drive the decisions on whether enough therapy has been delivered or not. PVI Analyzer is a machine learning-based analytical tool to analyze if pulmonary vein isolation is complete. This is the cornerstone ablation for all AF ablations. This has been validated in a prospective multicenter study in Europe where we met our primary endpoint, and we just installed this at NYU in the US 2 weeks ago as the first site internationally. We have licensed our way exclusively into the FAST algorithm developed in Toronto, which does signal analysis to analyze focal sources of atrial fibrillation, which will suggest where to ablate in the atrium in addition to the pulmonary veins, which is the standard of care today. This was prospectively tested in a randomized controlled trial in Toronto. It was a little bit underpowered, so it didn't mean its p-value, but we are continuing to work with validating how we may bridge the gap from the 50% outcomes we see with standard of care today. We have completed 4 clinical studies in the last 2 years. We have met our primary endpoints. We are currently recruiting in 1 in Europe, and we are working on a very ambitious module that can predict long-term freedom. We are selling our software on a volume-based software subscription model. Therapeutic software that will inform when to treat, where to treat, and when enough has been delivered can justify a price point of up to $2,500 per procedure. And we are selling the software as such. And if we had the market install base like the market leader GE had today, it would cause a dramatic change in the existing revenue for this product category that is currently selling as capital equipment. We are selling it as software, and we are having the first paying customers coming on board now. We were FDA cleared with the base system a year ago. We were FDA cleared with the PVI Analyzer Signal Complexity just 1.5 months ago. We've had clinical evaluations at Cleveland Clinic, Hopkins, NYU Langone, Houston, Methodist, IU, Valley Health, and others. We have excellent feedback. We've been able to permanently replace the existing systems in the market. And the key goals for us to reach next year is to really prove repetitive use every day, all procedures in 20 hospitals. It's to publish our clinical results. We have 5 manuscripts coming right now. And it's to prove our software-based business model, which is completely changing the premise of our product category. We are currently closing a $12 million US round. We have approximately 9 of those secured already from existing owners. We are seeking $3.7 million from new investors, and we believe we are hitting some M&A triggers next year, and we will assess during next year whether M&A or follow-on investment will be the path forward. We have a management team where we have delivered everything from idea to FDA clearance, 4 clinical studies completed. We have an experienced board of directors with industry experience in the EP ablation space. And if any of you are interested in hearing more, I'm here afterwards. Thanks for your attention.